Okay, so welcome to another installment of Why. Now, in this particular case, the why becomes somewhat redundant because the moment you start watching the video that I'm about to show you, you're kind of going to be able to ascertain why this person did this at her father's funeral. To give you a little context to the story, this is a young girl that did a eulogy speech at her father's funeral. Her father who died from liver cancer not before she made a flurry of videos mocking his condition before he died. But the cherry on the top at his funeral, she decided to spit and dance on his grave. To send him off as a loving daughter sends off a father. And then obviously this gets put on TikTok because of course why not? Why not put this on TikTok? Why not advertise it so that it can go viral and she can become a hero and an activist martyr and get lauded and applauded by society at large and the mainstream media, of course. But take a look at the video and then we'll break this down a little bit more after you watch this. So just go ahead, take a look.
Dad, please know that while I am grateful and highly aware of all that you've given this family, I still don't miss you. When you died, I felt like there was a hole. I missed something, but it wasn't you. It was the idea of what you could become. I missed being able to hope and wish that one day you turn a corner and see the world from my perspective. I missed the idea that one day you might help me fight for the things that matter. I missed my fantasy of you. Because when you died, it solidified the fact that you'll never be what you could have been, but only what you are. And what you are is a racist, misogynistic, xenophobic, Trump-loving, cis-straight white man. That is all you will ever be to me. And Dad, before you tell me to respect the dead, please remember that you disrespected and disregarded the lives and deaths of entire communities of people with your ideology. You told me to never back down, so I won't. You know for a fact that even against you, I'm not afraid to share my peace. You are everything I aspire not to be, and I refuse to stand up here and sing the praises of a man who is the paradigm of white supremacy. So I'll take your racist mindset, I'll take your money, and I'll take your advice. And I swear to God I will make this world a better place. Not at all because of you, but in exact opposition to you. Thank you.
Okay, so she begins her eulogy speech by saying, Dad, thank you. I'm grateful. She's grateful for everything that her father has done for her and the family. But yet his passing didn't really mean anything to her. She didn't feel like she's missing something. She felt like there's nothing to miss over there, right? The only thing she misses is the idea of her father, because she's been on this earth for so long that she knows what her father could have been before she even knows what she herself is. She missed the idea of her father, so she's not really going to miss him. She's going to miss the idea of what he could be. Right, which is quite an interesting take coming from a young girl who hasn't experienced anything on earth yet and hasn't really gone through any adversity, and just judging by her demeanor and her character, you can kind of see this is a person that has never been told no, sit the fuck down and shut the fuck up. That is probably where the crux of the whole problem comes with, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. She starts off by saying that she's grateful for her father, but she's not really grateful for her father. And she goes into obviously the neo-Marxist starter pack combo of calling him a whole bunch of different names: a white supremacist, a misogynist, a racist, Trump supporter. Now, the cis male Trump supporter. Now, these are all very important because these are the neo-Marxist starter pack slogans, right? You get given to them the moment you sort of get recruited into their cult. They say, here's the starter pack, here is some very bright pink colored spray paint for your hair, and then these are the slogans that you throw at everybody, which obviously includes Trump supporter, cisgender, misogynist, racist, all the classics, man. All the classics are all there. You get given that, and then you are set out into the world to go and attack your own bloodline. So that's what she does. Now, the one thing that she doesn't say is that her father was in any which way abusive to her. Was he an alcoholic? Was he surely that would be the headline of your speech if your father was a terrible person. In fact, the starting part of her speech was that her father was actually a provider of the family and did well for the family. And the ending part of her speech was that she's happy to take his money. right? Obviously, because, who doesn't want to take the money of a white supremacist? And who doesn't want to take the money of a racist, misogynistic person? And, that kind of thing is like, they are denounced for all of those things, but their money is just as good as anything else. Now, what she's doing over here, obviously, is not something that I think she's, like, cognizant herself of her actual idea. These are not her arguments. These are arguments that are given to her by the media. They are given to her by the educational institutions. They are given her by the radicals, right? The people who have constructed this cult of destroying everything that preceded it, but not building anything on it, right? A neo-Marxist, radical liberal will always tell you about what they hate. They'll never tell you about what they love. They're just these bitter individuals that will never tell you what it is that they love. They'll always tell you what they hate and what must be taken down and what must be destroyed, but they'll never tell you what they love and how it needs to be replaced and what they can do better. That they'll never tell you, right? But the one thing she doesn't mention over here is the fact that her father, who's a white supremacist racist, is a person who had her with another person of color. She's a biracial child. Her father was white and her mother was a person of color. So her father, must have been a very bad racist at that, to actually go and have a child and then support that child, right, for all of her life up until this point, to then be called a white supremacist, misogynistic, cisgender. Obviously, you have to throw the cisgender in there. Obviously, Trump supporter, right? Now, let me try and sort of just summarize that for you, because it might be a mouthful. Basically, what she's trying to say there is that my father did not have the same opinions as I. I was unable to become the gravitational force that draws everything to me. I was unable to be the center of every person's universe, including my father's. And because my father disagreed with me, that makes my father a terrible human being whose money is good enough for me, whose care up until this point, who put a roof over my head and all that kind of thing, was good for me. But I couldn't get my way with my father, right? He didn't share my views, so therefore my father is a terrible person and I need to step all over his grave. Now you kind of see the kind of person that you're dealing with over here, right? Because, I was taught as a kid that if even, and make no mistake, my father's no fucking gem neither. I haven't spoken to my father in years, but I'll tell you one thing, when my father does pass away and he gets put buried into the ground, there are a lot of things that I can say about my father that aren't good, that are legitimately not good, right? From abuse to alcoholism to all of that kind of thing. I can say those things about my father at his funeral, but I would choose not to. I would choose to take the decent route because I can, as a reasonable person, find some good things about that person. Every human being is flawed and every single person has made mistakes in their lives. My father included. He had a very difficult upbringing as well. He struggled mentally, struggled psychologically. He had many problems in his own life, his own struggles, right? That kind of shaped his worldview, right? And shaped him to be the man that he was in my childhood and my upbringing, right? That culminated in us eventually not speaking in our later years. But if I do have to make a eulogy at my father's funeral, it's either I say nothing, right? If you've got nothing nice to say, rather not say it. But if I have to say something, I would give him the dignity of and respect as a human being, that there were actually good traits about him. As I am assuming, and I am almost 100% sure, there are great traits about her father, right? So at the funeral, the person that you hated so much, if you're such an activist, right, you can sit there and be like, I didn't see eye to eye with my father. We clashed many a times, right? But he did provide for us. He was a person who looked after the family, looked after myself, and I will take a lot of what he said into consideration. A lot of other things that I don't agree with, I might not take into consideration, but taking all of that, may he rest in peace. That would have been the dignified way of doing that. But it couldn't possibly be that for this person, because that wouldn't put her in the center of every single person's life and existence. Again, these are the kind of people, this is the kind of society that needs to be the driving force behind everything. And if you don't allow them to be that, they are being oppressed. Even though they come from a privileged home, even though they come from a very stable, privileged environment, that doesn't actually matter. Serving the cult is what matters the most, and that is what this person decided to do in this particular moment, and step all over her father's grave. Now, the greatest thing, and I'm going to conclude shortly, is the way she ended the speech. I will take your advice, I'll take your suggestions, and I'll take your money, because I will make the world a better place, not because of you, but in opposition to you. Now you think to yourself, you wouldn't know how to make a world a better place if it had to slap you across the face multiple times. Making the world a better place is not trying to act like a neo-Marxist spoiled brat, right? At a funeral denouncing your father. That does not make a world a better place. Leading by example makes the world a better place. Going out and actually doing the actions and not spewing the rhetoric garbage that comes out of cult movements is making the world a better place. But again, in today's world, we're dealing with fakery. We're dealing with every single thing in today's world is fake. Our activist movements are fake. Our politicians are fake. Our elites are fake. Our influencers are fake. Our money is fake. Our stock markets are fake. Our governments are fake. I mean, so what else do you want for a young society to do than to follow the example that is being given to them? This is the example that we're laying down for our children today. Be grateful for absolutely nothing. Hate absolutely everything, right? Diagnose yourself as a depressed person even though you are privileged, right? And then say that everything that is happening in your life is because of everybody else. It's everybody else's fault. You are to point to every single other person and people from years before you, right? Who built and achieved things, and yes, were flawed people, but have gotten society to a point today where you're unbelievably privileged with huge amounts of conveniences that you can go from town to town without having to look at the stars to navigate because you've got a fucking map in your pocket, right? All of those, everything, the world, its existence and all of history is to blame why her life, why she is not happy, right? That is who is to blame. However, even though she hates the white, and I've got to drive this point home, because this is basically the epitome of the fake movements that we have today, right? I will do everything. I am the hero. I am standing on the soapbox. I am the person that is going to change the world. I am going to denounce everything of all the people that I disagree with. I will not ever take any of their shit into consideration. However, I will take their money. Their money is not beyond reprisal because I like money. Money's good. Now I'll take your money because money gives me the things I like and money gives me the conveniences I like. So I will take the white supremacists' money. I will take the Trump supporters' money. I will take the misogynists' money. And I will say fuck you when you in the grave, and I'll make a TikTok video about it so that once again I am able to put myself in everybody else's universe, because if I don't do that, I can't be content with myself. This is a real problem that we have in society today. And you know what? To a certain extent, I don't blame her for it. I blame her parents for it. Now, I'm sure the mother was heavily involved in this. I completely denounce the mother and allowing her child to actually say a speech like this about her father at the funeral. And I don't know what's worse, the fact that she said something so despicable, or the fact that when she ended that speech, people actually clapped for it. I mean, I guess we don't have to choose either one. They're both despicable. But this is the society we live in today. This is how we have now brought up our children, that we say we're no longer allowed to say no to them. We're no longer allowed to put them in their place, because that is oppression. And that is exactly what the system is geared to do. Right? It is to decouple children from their parents, right? The people who provide for them, the people who financially support them, the people who educate them, decouple them from their parents, from their bloodline, right? So that they can float in the abyss as these lost, wondrous souls that can then be taken up by the institutional cult, right? And then get imposed, a new ideology gets imposed on them, right? That then makes them hate their own bloodline. And then they become foot soldiers. They become foot soldiers for a movement that is ultimately, the whole mission is ultimately to completely dismantle what is, with zero plan of what they can put there next. They are walking in a field and seeing a fence and not knowing why the fence is there, but they are saying, instead of being like, maybe we should find out why this fence is here, and maybe removing it might not be a good idea, they're like, no, fuck the fence, take the fence out, and if there's a pack of lions on the other side, who gives a shit, right? My instant gratification now is to take away what was built now, because I hate it, because they are being taught to do nothing but hate everything around them, including themselves. That is the main factor here. They need to hate themselves first and foremost in order to be recruited into a movement like this. Because if you love yourself, you would never ever be in a position where you're standing at your father's funeral, and even if he has done the most heinous of things, stand at your father's funeral and rather say nothing, or at the very least find it within yourself to say the good things and be somewhat brief in omitting the bad things, because that's what a decent human being does. But we don't live in a decent world anymore. We don't live amongst decent human beings in the upcoming generation that's here. This gets applauded, this gets lauded. She's now become a hero for nothing. And I will guarantee you right now, she won't change the world. Her whole idea of changing the world is great, but she won't change the world. And just like she did this at her father's funeral, I can safely say that, and I hope not, because I'd hate to be vindictive about it, but I could safely say that a person like that will eventually have a funeral that she won't even get the opportunity of having anybody say anything at her funeral, because there will be no one at her funeral to say anything about her, because that is the legacy that we are leaving for the next generation. And that is the legacy that she will leave for the next generation, if she is to ever have a next generation, which is doubtful. Anyway, you guys let me know what you think down in the comment section. I love you all. Please stay safe, please stay healthy. I'll catch you in the next one.